If you ever wondered why you can't stop listening to a Taylor Swift song the same way you can't put down a great novel, there's a reason for that. She's not just writing catchy pop songs. She's crafting 3-minute masterpieces using the exact same storytelling techniques that best-selling novelists use to hook millions of readers. Look, I know what you're thinking. Really? We're getting fiction writing advice from the person who wrote Shake It Off? But here's what changed everything. When Swift released Folklore in 2020, literary critics didn't just call it good music, they called it literature. We're talking about an album that spins fictional love triangle across 3 songs, each from a different character's perspective. The same technique you'd find in a novel with rotating narrators. Critics literally said it reads like a short story with vivid detail and keen clarity. So, in the next couple of minutes, we're going to break down 5 specific storytelling techniques that Swift uses in her lyrics. Techniques that will make your fiction more addictive than her catchiest hook. Here's where Swift is secretly brilliant. She doesn't just write characters, she writes perspectives. Take that love triangle I mentioned from Folklore. Most writers would tell this story from one viewpoint. Swift wrote it from 3. In Cardigan, we hear Betty's wistful remembrance of being betrayed. In August, Augustine recalls a love that was never mine to lose. And in Betty, James seeks redemption for his mistakes. But here's the genius part. Swift refuses to make anyone the villain. She presents Augustine, the other woman, with nuance and empathy. Augustine isn't a homewrecker, she's a fully human character whose heartbreak is just as real as Betty's. This is what literary critics call moral complexity, and it's why readers become obsessed with certain characters. Nobody in real life is purely good or purely evil. So when you write that way, your characters feel real. Next time you're writing a scene with conflict, try Swift's approach. Write it once from your protagonist's perspective, then write it again from the antagonist's viewpoint. Not to use both, just to understand what the villain actually wants. Because here's what Swift discovered. The moment you understand why someone does something terrible, you stop writing cartoon villains and start writing complicated humans. And complicated humans? That's what keeps readers turning pages at 2 a.m. But understanding character psychology is only half the battle, because Swift doesn't just tell us who these people are, she shows us. If you ever listened to All Too Well and felt like you were watching a movie in your head, that's not an accident. Swift has mastered what writing teachers call show, don't tell. And she does it better than most novelists. Instead of singing I was heartbroken, she shows us specific moments, just like in her lyrics.
Photo album on the counter. Your cheeks were turning red.
Immediately, we're transported. We can picture the kitchen, see the embarrassed blush, feel the intimate moment of looking through childhood photos together. Later in the song, instead of stating, "You stood me up on my birthday," Swift shows the aftermath.
But then he watched me watch the front door all night, willing you to come.
Our brains immediately fill in the blanks. He stood her up on her 21st birthday? We feel that betrayal viscerally because Swift let us discover it ourselves. This is psychological gold for fiction writers. When readers piece together what happened instead being told directly, they become active participants in your story. Take any emotional moment in your current story. If you wrote "She was devastated," replace it with a specific image. What would devastation look like? Maybe mascara stains on her pillow that she discovers the next morning. Maybe she finds herself making coffee for 2 people out of habit. Swift's genius is in choosing details that carry emotional weight. The scarf left behind isn't just a scarf, it's a symbol of lingering attachment. Choose details that do double duty. Advance the plot and reveal character emotion. But even perfect characters and vivid scenes can fall flat if you don't structure them right. And Swift's approach to story structure, it's basically a masterclass in keeping people hooked. Here's something wild. Swift structures her songs like short stories, complete with rising action, climax, and resolution. But she does something most writers don't. She uses the bridge of her songs as the emotional climax. Take All Too Well again. The verses build tension, but the bridge, that's where everything explodes.
You call me up again just to break me like a promise. So casually cruel in the name of being honest.
That's not just a catchy lyric. That's a perfectly placed story climax. All hurt has been simmering, and suddenly it bursts into raw anger. Fans call Swift's bridges legendary for a reason. She consistently uses that structural beat to flip or elevate the emotional stakes. In your fiction, identify your story's emotional climax, not the action climax. The moment when your character's feelings reach their breaking point. Now ask yourself, have you built to that moment properly? Swift doesn't just dump raw emotion on us. She earns that explosive bridge by laying emotional groundwork in every verse. But here's where Swift gets really sneaky with structure. She plays with time. All too well jumps between past and present using flashbacks to make the current heartbreak more painful. We see how good it was, which makes the loss hit harder. This is advanced storytelling. Most writers tell stories chronologically. Swift realizes that sometimes the most powerful way to tell a story is backwards, sideways, or in fragments. And speaking of powerful, wait until you see how Swift makes you care about these stories in the first place. Swift doesn't just write about emotions, she engineers them. Every Swift song revolves around stakes we can all relate to: wanting to be loved, desire for revenge, protecting your self-worth. But here's her secret weapon. She's not afraid of melodrama when she's earned it. Listen to Tolerate It. She starts restrained, describing quiet neglect.
I sit and watch you reading with your head low.
It's simple and understated. But by the bridge, she explodes.
I made you my temple, my mural, my sky.
That's pure melodrama, and it works because she built to it. This teaches fiction writers something crucial. Big emotions need setup. You can't just throw your character into despair on page 1. But if you show them losing small things first, a text going unanswered, a forgotten anniversary, a dismissive comment, then when they finally break down, readers feel it. Swift also embraces moral ambiguity, which creates tension within listeners. In Happiness, she sings about a breakup where both people hurt each other. No clear villain, no innocent victim, just complicated humans making complicated choices. Give your characters conflicting emotions about the same situation. Maybe your protagonist achieves their goal but loses something important in the process. Maybe your antagonist does terrible things for understandable reasons. When readers have to hold contradictory feelings about your characters, they can't stop thinking about your story. But all of this, the characters, the scenes, the structure, the emotions, they only work if you can tie them together into something bigger. And Swift's approach to that? It's basically mythology. Here's where Swift goes from songwriter to storytelling mastermind. She doesn't just write individual songs, she creates mythologies. Look at her album Reputations. Swift literally framed it as a villain origin story.
The old Taylor can't come to the phone right now, 'cause she's dead.
This is self-mythologizing, taking real events and turning them into archetypical stories of death and rebirth. Swift also uses motifs, recurring symbols that connect her stories. Colors become emotional codes. Red for intensity, gold for precious memories, and purple for new romance. The scarf becomes a symbol of lingering attachment that shows up across multiple songs. Think about your body of work, whether it's a single novel or a series, as having recurring themes or symbols. Maybe mirrors appear in your stories when characters face uncomfortable truths about themselves. Maybe rain shows up during emotional breakthroughs. These don't have to be heavy-handed. Swift's motifs are often subtle. The goal is to create a sense that your stories exist in a coherent universe, even if they're not directly connected. But here's the most important lesson from Swift's approach to myth-making. She treats storytelling itself as sacred. Songs like The Lakes and Long Story Short are literally about the importance of stories and art in her life. She writes about writing, creating a meta-commentary on the power of narrative. This reminds fiction writers of something we sometimes forget. Stories matter. The work you're doing, creating characters, building worlds, exploring human emotion, it's not just entertainment. You are helping people understand themselves and each other. Swift knows this. which is why she takes her storytelling so seriously. So let's bring this back to your fiction. Swift has proven that great storytelling transcends format. Whether you're writing a 3-minute song or a 300-page novel, the same principles apply. Write characters with psychological complexity. Show scenes with specific sensory details. Structure your story for emotional impact. Engineer stakes that readers care about, and create mythology around your work that makes it feel important. But here's what Swift really teaches us about writing. Authenticity beats perfection every single time. Her most beloved songs aren't necessarily her most technically perfect ones. They're the ones where she tells the truth about messy, complicated human experiences. And speaking of truth, if you've made it this far into a video about Taylor Swift and fiction writing, you're probably the kind of writer who's serious about improving your craft. So this is what I want you to do. Like and subscribe. That's it. Anyway, pick one technique from today's video, maybe the character psychology or the scene setting approach, and try it in your current project this week. Because here's the thing about storytelling advice. It only works if you actually use it. And if you want more storytelling breakdowns like this, where we analyze what makes certain stories irresistible and how you can apply those techniques to your own fiction, so like what I've said before, make sure you subscribe with notifications on and like this video. And by that, I'll see you in the next one.